Welcome to Larry's Library. With the first Tuesday of a new month, we get a new top 10. So this is Top 10 Tuesday, and this time I am doing my top 10 other creators that should get Wolverine credit before Roy Thomas. So this story came out about, by the time this posts, it's going to have been about a month ago, probably, by the time I get this video up. But so this is kind of old news. But about a month ago, the story came out, and it came out in The Hollywood Reporter, and I will link to that article below. So yeah, this came out about a month ago, so by now you probably either read this or some retelling of the original Hollywood Reporter piece. But what happened was the great Roy Thomas, and in my mind, he's still the great Roy Thomas, but I'm so terribly disappointed in him that it just makes me wince to think that the great Roy Thomas has is doing this. You know, he's trying to basically steal credit for the creation of Wolverine. You know, I mean, he doesn't need this, and I'm afraid it's going to tarnish his legacy if it hasn't already. You know, I mean, Roy Thomas, to me, I've been a fan of his since I'm a little kid. You know, I mean, I loved his work that he did on Marvel's Conan and his adaptations of the other Robert E. Howard characters from, Solomon Kane, uh, on and on and on, King Cole, Red Sonja, which he basically invented Red Sonja as we know her. I mean, Robert E. Howard, had the Red Sonja character, but she was not in a medieval fantasy setting. She had a musket, and I mean, it was just a different character. And Roy Thomas reinterpreted her and inserted her into the Hyborian age of Conan. Now, so not too much of a tangent about that, but I'm just saying I had a lot of respect and admiration for Roy Thomas's work, and I still do. But he was an editor in chief at Marvel for a while, and he was an editor over many lines of comic books, including the Incredible Hulk. At the time of Incredible Hulk 180 and 181, which were the first cameo of Wolverine was in 180, a little one-panel deal toward the end of the book, and then the first full appearance of Wolverine was in 181, which everyone knows that. I mean, it's a legendary, high-priced book, Incredible Hulk 181. So he was the editor there, and now he's claiming credit for the Wolverine's creation. So not only is he claiming co-creator of Wolverine, he got Marvel, the current Marvel powers that be, to listen to him. And if you look in the thank yous and all of the creator credits at the end of Wolverine Deadpool, the new movie, I mean, it's been out for over a month now because it's video, but anyway, you get the idea. He's listed right there with Len Wein and John Romita Sr., Herb Trimpe, and then Roy Thomas. I mean, he shouldn't be on that line with those people. So why is he claiming this creator credit? Well, you know what? I'm just going to put his words up on the screen, and I'll read them, and you can follow along for yourself, and you can see exactly what he said. So again, this is from the Hollywood Reporter. And Roy Thomas says, I am especially pleased that just as I have importuned them to do at every opportunity I ever had, even if they did so for their own good reasons, not because of my suggestions, Marvel decided to add the name of Herb Trimpe to the mix, taking John Romita's two-figure concept sketch and turning it into a 20-page story and superhero battle in The Incredible Hulk number 181 was every bit as important as Len taking my original requirements as to name, nationality, small stature, and fierce disposition, and turning out that first story inventively adding the Weapon X complex, Wolverine being a mutant, and the notion that his Romita-devised claws were made of adamantium, a little metal I'd tossed into an earlier Avengers comic. The four of us made a good team on that book, with myself as editor-in-chief, quite content to let Len, John, and Herb handle things once I gave out general marching orders. It's a shame and pity there's been so much ill-considered ill will generated in recent months since Marvel decided to give me the official co-creator status that I've never for one moment doubted that I, just like Herb, deserved. The more so since my side of the creation story has been a part of the public record since articles printed in 1982 and 1999. Now, see, for me, that's not enough for co-creator credit. A thank you along with all those other people, all those other comic creators that got thank you at the ends of these films? For sure. Absolutely. But co-creator credit? Really? He came up with the name, he says the nationality, the short stature. I mean, those are important. They really are. I'm not going to diminish that that's not an important thing that he did. But editors at the time at Marvel were not giving character creation credit for things like that. Unless they also wrote the script, they didn't get that. They were the editor on the book. I mean, that was their role. He should be thanked for that and maybe mentioned somewhere, but on the same line with Len Wein and Herb Trimpe, I don't think so. I disagree, and I'm not the only one. The entire industry pretty much have chimed in not agreeing with that. So, but that being said, I decided, I bet I could turn this into a top 10. My feelings about this, so that's what I've done here. I've come up with 10 comic book creators that should be given Wolverine creator credit before Roy Thomas. Now, a lot of this is in jest. I don't think that these creators necessarily should be listed as Wolverine's creators, but I think they should be higher on that list than Roy Thomas. And of course, the main creators should be Len Wein and Herb Trimpe and John Romita Sr. But I'm going to list 10 others that should be listed higher in that hierarchy than Roy Thomas. And I'm going to start with number 10. Number 10 would be Jim Lee for his iconic artwork in the 90s depicting Wolverine and the other X-Men, but especially his depictions of Wolverine. They're so iconic that for a lot of people, not my generation, but many generations after, he's their Wolverine. When they think of Wolverine, they think of some of the Jim Lee drawings. So for that reason, he's number 10 on this list. Number 9, I've got Dave Cockrum. Now, Dave Cockrum, I'm putting him up for the X-Men artwork he did. He did a lot of issues before the John Byrne era, and then he came back and did some more issues after John Byrne left. And his Wolverine depictions there are also pretty iconic and certainly influenced the development of the character. So that's why he's number 9. Number 8, I've got Andy Kubert. Now, Andy Kubert, I'm nominating him for this. I'm putting him in for the work he did on Wolverine the Origin, that miniseries where you got to see Wolverine as a child and the character that would become Wolverine. Now that miniseries was controversial. Not everyone liked that series, but I liked it, and it is part of the canon, like it or not. Now it's part of the official Wolverine origin. At number 7, I have Andy Kubert's brother, Adam Kubert, and I'm putting him in for the work he did on the Wolverine series itself. I don't know how many issues he did exactly, but he did a lot, and they were very iconic. Just some really beautiful Wolverine art that influenced a host of artists after him. But most notably, he did the art for the first appearance of Wolverine's bone claws in issue 75. Here's a page where he first pops those bone claws. At number 6, I've got Paul Jenkins, who wrote that Wolverine Origins miniseries where we first learn of Wolverine as a child, or the guy that would become Wolverine later, and we get to see him pop those bone claws for the first time. That all was scripted by Paul Jenkins. So that's why he's number 6 on my list of creators that should get Wolverine creation credit before Roy Thomas. Number 5, I've got Frank Miller for that legendary Wolverine Limited series, that first one. Frank Miller did all the interior art and these beautiful iconic covers, and that developed the character in ways that we're still feeling the impact from today. And it continues to influence stories and art on and on and on, and probably long after we're all dead, it's still going to be influencing comic art in the depiction of Wolverine. And so that's why he's number 5. At number 4, I've got writer Larry Hama. Now, Larry Hama drew Wolverine for a long time. Let's see, I've got it in my notes here. He wrote Wolverine 31 through 53, 55 through 57, 60 through 109, long unbroken stretch there, and then 111 through 118. In total, he did, if I did the math right, 82 issues of Wolverine. So he wrote the crap out of Wolverine, and they were great stories too. Fondly remembered stories that developed the character and had a lasting impact on Wolverine. And if you notice there in the issue numbers I ran through there, yes, he wrote issue 75. The first time we see Wolverine's bone claws was in issue 75, also written by Larry Hama. Now, the first time Wolverine, the character, pops the claws, that was written by Paul Jenkins in the Origin miniseries years later, if that makes sense. Hope everybody followed that. And number 3, I've got John Byrne. John Byrne, arguably the greatest X-Men artist that ever was. His drawings of Wolverine in his historic run he did with Chris Claremont, with Terry Austin inking him, defined the character to me. I mean, it completely defined Wolverine and shaped him into to what we know today. I mean, it would not have happened if we had just had the Dave Cockrum stuff. Not to diminish Dave Cockrum, I love the guy, but John Byrne really developed the look and feel of Wolverine. And for that reason, he's number 3 on my list of other creators besides the 3 main ones that should get creator credit for Wolverine before we're going to consider putting Roy Thomas on that list, okay? At number 2, I've got Barry Windsor Smith. In the early 90s, Barry Smith wrote and drew a fabulous multi-part story within the pages of Marvel Comics Presents. And of course, I'm talking about Weapon X, where Barry Smith gives us the definitive, detailed account of exactly what happened and how the adamantium was bonded to Wolverine's skeleton. In great, grisly detail. Yeah. If you haven't read Barry Smith's Weapon X, get it. It's available in a variety of formats. My favorite being the Gallery Edition, if you can still find that. I did a review of that one. I will link it up above, if I can fit all those links in there. So for that extremely influential and iconic story, Barry Smith obviously deserves creator credit for Wolverine far above any Roy Thomas as editor type of deal. Look at the gorgeous art he did. Look at the details. I mean, we never had all of this information about Weapon X until Barry Smith did this story. And this story has influenced the character and developed the character as far as anything ever has. I mean, it is the blueprint for his origin and how he got the adamantium. I mean, the movies have used it. Some parts of the films where they went into the Weapon X thing almost look like they just leaped right out of Barry Smith's art. So that is why he is number 2. But my number 1 creator, who should be listed before Roy Thomas in Wolverine's creation, is of course Chris Claremont. I mean, who else? You know, yes, Len created Wolverine, and Roy Thomas thought of the name, and that he had short stature, and that he was Canadian. Okay, yeah, he did that. But Chris Claremont developed Wolverine into the Wolverine that we all know and love. Okay, so really, I mean, they had this very loose concept of what the character was before Chris Claremont, through his 16-year run on X-Men, developed Wolverine into the character that we all think of when we think of Wolverine. We're thinking of Chris Claremont's Wolverine. I mean, let's just be honest here. We are. So his name should be listed way, way higher up in that list than Roy Thomas. So that's my stand on this. Let me know yours in the comments, and I hope you like taking a look at this top 10. And I'll see you next time.